Hey, welcome to Bollox Talks and Tangents. Today we have some amazing stuff we're going to talk about. I mean, it's just some ridiculous
stuff.
I mean, we got the world's most violent sports or games. Some of them I don't know if they're sports.
There's something. They're officially sports.
Yeah, they're sports. There might be games. There might be sports. And the other thing is trains.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how the railroad changed and maybe even shaped Florida.
Because I think the railroad, there's three things that I think majorly changed Florida. All right? Air conditioning. Mosquito control. And the trains.
Yeah.
So I think those three things changed Florida more than anything else.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we got so much fun stuff, but we got to say thank you to our sponsors.
The people that make this possible are our sponsors. Guys, thank you so much indeed.
And I'm going to tell you this. We're leading off because Blake and I had this, and you had already grabbed a bite.
I had.
But me, Pete, and Blake, we chowed down on some 900-degree pizza and pasta. We had the pepperoni pizza, and it was absolutely, when you ever open a pizza and go, that's going to taste amazing.
Yeah.
And it just looked perfect. It was like a commercial.
Yeah, perfect pizza.
It was like a commercial when we opened it. It was like, even people went, wow.
Yeah.
If you open a pizza box and you go, wow, that's a good damn pizza.
That is a good damn pizza.
So they do an amazing job over there. Great people. I
have friends of mine.
Spectacular.
Their kids ride on the bike a couple of times a week. They come down from Heritage Park. That's where they go for pizza. 900-degree pizza. Right by the high school. Guys, if you haven't checked them out, check them out.
Yeah, sauce is amazing. All right. Meehan's Irish Pub.
Meehan's Irish Pub, my favourite drinking establishment in the town. Best pint of Guinness, maybe in America. The nicest staff. Reggie Maggs. What a guy. Great place. Three great bars. Upstairs, you got the best view in town. Downstairs, late night, belly up to the bar, pure magic.
Oh, yeah.
And then out back in the afternoons, early evening, particularly if Hubble is bartending.
Oh, yeah.
Nowhere better.
Nowhere better than sitting, especially the weather like it is right now, sitting at the backyard at the bar.
Magic.
Oh, and they usually have some live music going. It's just so good. My cousin came down last weekend from Tennessee, and she'd been watching the show. She's like, I got to check out this place. Nice. So we sat out on the front porch and watched the water. Just great.
It's perfect right there.
Absolutely it's perfect on the second level, right near the Oyster Bar. All right, the Beacon Listening Room and Gypsy Cab. Both of them just excellent. They have two different menus.
Side by side, owned by the same people. Great menus, great staff. Mm-hmm. I drank quite a considerable bit in the Beacon last weekend, and I felt really good about myself afterwards.
Well, you can walk home from there.
I can walk home. I can stagger home.
Yes,
from there.
Do a little stumbleina.
Yeah.
So, all right, but they have trivia there on Wednesday night. Heard the guy there is hilarious.
He tells the great. I never tire of hearing his jokes.
Yeah, the same ones for 25 years. But they also have, in my opinion, they have the best music on the island.
The great music. Yeah, they do a great job in there.
All right. St. Augustine Pirate Museum.
Love the Pirate Museum.
All right.
I love the Pirate Museum.
All right, and Blake, I forgot to bring in the little thing. They got a little spooktacular thing going next week for Halloween at the Colonial Quarter over there, and the Pirate Museum's sponsoring that. I believe it's the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th.
Yeah, it is.
At the Colonial Quarter over there. Go check those guys out. They always do an amazing job. Great staff. Very community-minded. Appreciate
it's a wonderful
partner.
Place. If you haven't been there, take your kids to the Pirate Museum. It is fan-freaking-tastic. Yeah. It really is.
All right.
Can I give a shout-out to... Okay, I'm drinking right now. We've got our whiskey of the week.
I don't know if they can see this.
This is salted caramel whiskey.
Salted caramel whiskey. Now, it is, and I'm gonna tell you, it's sweet. It is a smooth whiskey. And I want to really try this over top of some vanilla ice cream.
Oh,
it's that good.
But how cool is the bottle as well? Just look at that there. That bottle is absolutely gorgeous. So this is City Gates Distillery.
Yep.
Right downtown, right by the city gates.
Yeah.
These guys, they make beautiful, beautiful whiskey. This is so freaking smooth. It is magical.
Yep.
So big shout out here. City Gates Distillery and of course St. Augustine Distillery over there on Riberia. Guys, thank you very much for looking after us and people.
They do great tastings over there. If you see us drinking it here, you don't have to buy the bottle. You can go there they'll give you a sample.
Yeah.
And you can find out which one you like. And very cost effective. And it's made here in St. Augustine. It's supporting local.
It is supporting local, and it's damn good.
All right. These guys, I have a meeting with them tomorrow. They're probably drinking tonight.
Yes, the once annual meeting with Troy where everyone shakes their head and puts their head on the table.
Everybody gets a little nervous. All right. Abare, Kresge and Associates.
The best accountants in St. Augustine.
Yeah. If they can keep me out of trouble.
Yeah, somehow they can balance Troy's books.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I mean it's phenomenal. They're just wonderful people. They know all the laws that get you the best return. You want to be able to keep as much money as everyone has to pay taxes.
You got to pay taxes.
We all do.
That's why we live in a civilized society.
But they basically have saved Blake's inheritance. So
Aww.
yeah, so they're family people.
So Blake won't live in a van down by the river.
Yeah, well, it's a nice van.
Unless by choice.
Yeah, unless by choice.
So, guys, thank you very much, all our sponsors.
Yes.
Blake is now staring at me.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable for either of us.
I'm not living in a van by the river.
All right, hey, look. So I stayed in the car during the Rolex. It was not fun.
Yeah, no, we well, even then you had like an air mattress in the back of my
Come
car.
on.
Yeah, you and I have
They're
fallen
soft.
asleep in way worse conditions. Way worse.
This is true.
Yeah, I guess.
That's another show.
Yeah.
Worst place you've ever woken up.
I definitely know of a good answer. We'll talk about it in a future show.
There you go.
Where I've woken up, or where you woken up?
Well, where we stayed at was there was one place.
Oh yeah. So we were going in. We'll tell this story right now. So we're going to. It's when we were going to Africa, right?
Yeah, it was.
So we're taking off for Africa. We're going for about 13 days, and our flight's early in the morning out of Orlando.
Okay.
All right. So we couldn't find a hotel room. And Blake's mom books this like days in. All right. And I was like, I see where it's at. I see the address, and I know Orlando pretty well.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not really a great spot. Literally, it is. We're close to the jail here. All right. It was like on top of the jail. It was like the jail. Like we walked out, and like you could see the inmates right there, and the door wouldn't lock.
Oh, that's lovely.
On the hotel room. So I usually have a weapon, but I didn't take my weapon with me. I think I had a knife in my car. So I literally slept with the knife on my chest that night. And that's because I could not get the door to lock at all. So, and it was in one of those neighborhoods where it was like, they ask whether or not you want sheets. That type of situation.
Yeah.
By far the worst place you've ever slept.
Yes.
So it was not in my top 10.
No, I wouldn't make my top 10 either.
It's not in my top 10.
I know there are other stories for other days.
Yes.
So you guys can definitely tell how good of a life I have. So.
Yeah, you're
You're doing okay, Blake.
You have not had to struggle too much. You've been all right.
So tell me, word origins. What do we got this week?
All right. So word origins, and I was like, okay, let's see what we got, and I ended up coming up with two pretty morbid ones.
I like morbid.
Yeah,
Morbid works for me.
Oh, we got the most violent games.
We do. We might as well have the most morbid.
So I went with morbid.
Good.
All right. And I didn't know the first one was morbid,
right.
And it's hell in a handbasket.
Hell in a handbasket. It's a great expression.
Yeah. Oh, things are going hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
All right.
Love it.
There are two possible origins with this one.
Okay.
The first one is not as morbid.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to go with that one, then I'll go with the morbid one.
Yeah.
All right. So it could have came from in the 1800s when the miners were digging for gold. They actually would do explosives, and they would put the dynamite and lower them down in a basket.
Hell in a handbasket.
Hell in a handbasket. So
Yeah,
the
okay.
dynamite went down in the basket.
I like that.
All right.
That's good.
So that could have been it. But the origin that goes further back is the guillotine.
The guillotine. Go on.
So when they chopped off his head, it fell into the basket.
Fell into a basket.
And most of the people that were assassinated
Yeah.
and killed were evil people.
Right.
They were criminals.
So you went to
that
hell.
was hell. You went to hell in a handbasket.
If
So that's the one I like. That's the one I'm going with.
If that's not true,
It should be.
It should be.
It should be true.
Really?
So I'm going with that one being Hell in a Handbasket.
Love it.
Okay.
Okay, so I went a totally different route. So we started watching Hell's Kitchen with my youngest kid.
Yeah.
He's not really into food. He just likes it when Gordon Ramsay swears all the time. Like the other day, Gordon Ramsay said to somebody, "Are you taking the piss out of me now, fuckface?" And my kid loves that.
Yeah.
Because obviously I never swear, but my wife does all the time.
Yeah.
So it's comfortable for him.
I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
She swore at me.
Finn, my youngest son, asked me, where does the expression surf and turf come from? I had no idea. So I looked it up. Now, I came across two interesting things. One, do you know what surf and turf is called in Australia?
I have no idea.
It is known as reef and beef.
Reef and beef.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Reef and beef. But the original surf and turf
See, I would think that would be smoking weed and then having a hamburger.
Yeah, I would too. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
That's, your mind works and mine
Yeah.
too. So it goes back to, it's not that old. It goes back to 1962. And it was your classic lobster and filet. And it goes back to the restaurant, the Eye of the Needle restaurant at the top of the Space Needle in Seattle. And it was designed as you come here and you get surf and turf. And that's where it started, on the menu.
So it started there.
Yeah.
And then everybody else picked it up if you did a steak and lobster.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Or
Surf and turf.
or a reef and beef in Australia.
Reef and beef.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. My second one's a little more morbid. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's kick the bucket.
This one I know.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful expression.
So which one do you know? Which one do you feel you know?
I think I know. I know two versions of this.
Okay. I'm going to see if they're the same two.
Okay. So
All
I'm
right.
going to. Can I tell you my first one?
You tell your first one, and I'll tell you. Tell
So
me.
the first one, and I know this because I grew up in rural Ireland, a lot of farm animals, and when you were butchering cattle or butchering pigs originally, when you hung them up from the whatever it was, the gibbet or whatever, it used to be known as the bucket. That was known as, and so when you'd cut an animal's throat or kill it, and it would thrash around, it would kick the frame, i.e., kicking the bucket. Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew, and I grew up on a pig farm, so we'd slaughter and we'd hang them on the bucket.
Yeah.
But I never would associated that with it because they stopped kicking by the time you got them up there. If they were still kicking, that was on you.
Okay.
So I never associated it with that. So the first one, which is the most morbid, is when people would hang themselves.
Okay.
When they would hang themselves, associated with death, they would stand on an upside down bucket.
Yes.
And
Brilliant.
how they would knock the bucket, they would kick the bucket
away.
to kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's dark.
That is dark. But when somebody says he kicked the bucket, they mean you are fucking dead.
Yeah.
You kicked the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your other one?
No, that was, I'd heard of that.
No, that's the one you heard of.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other one I heard is in some funerals, they have holy water, all right? And the holy water, they would put a bucket of water at the foot of the corpse, and the people would sprinkle the holy water on him. And it had to do with the placement of the holy water bucket. So, he's kicked the bucket. That means the bucket was placed
Right
next
by
to his foot.
He died.
And he died that way.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Those are really great.
Yeah. So,
Oh, man. So
Yeah.
my second one.
but I mean, yeah, I remember we called that thing a bucket.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I never associated it until right then, because you cut little things that are little hooves where the calves are and stuff, and that's where you slide it through.
Yeah.
And all it is a stick with it. Yeah. So.
Childhood is interesting.
Yeah, it's another thing Blake did not have to worry about. He didn't have to slaughter pigs on Sunday.
So the other one I came up with, again, connected to the Gordon Ramsay thing, was beef Wellington. And the kids was asking, where does the term beef Wellington come from? And it's a dish, everywhere I looked this up, it's a dish that was created to celebrate the victory of the Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. And apparently beef and pastry was just becoming very popular in England. And it was a French dish, had come to England. And so somebody designed this dish for the Duke of Wellington.
Ah.
Right? Celebrating the Battle of Waterloo.
So it was in celebration. It was like possibly one of his first meals after the victory or something?
I think it was a restaurateur designed it as a homage to the man.
Gotcha.
And he later became the British Prime Minister. Like, he's kind of a legendary figure in British history.
I can tell you this: the best beef Wellington I've ever had.
Yeah.
Blake, where was it at? Oh, are you not paying? I'm sorry, you're not paying attention.
Paying attention.
He's only producing the damn show. He's not paying attention.
What's going on in there?
Yeah, he's playing Tetris in there or something. All right. I asked where's the best beef Wellington that I've ever had, beef Wellington.
It was a Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. We walked into Hell's Kitchen. It was his birthday weekend last year. We walked into Hell's Kitchen and said, we got 2. They got a reservation. We're like, nope. 2 spots open at the bar. We sat down like right then. Everybody else was waiting like 2 hours.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love eating at the bar.
I always eat at the bar. Yeah. I'm that kind of guy.
I'm that kind of a guy
I'm
too.
belly up to
Belly
the bar.
the fuck up, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right. So, do we want to start with world's most violent sports, or do
Yeah.
we want to do trains? Let's end it on a more happy train.
Yeah, trains are happier.
Hey, they're happier.
Yeah.
They're happier, but I have a dark story with that one too.
Let's talk about violent sports.
Yes.
All right. So we looked up a lot of violence. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically what we're doing, okay, we understand that boxing is violent.
Yes.
And we know that football is violent and rugby is violent. You know, mixed martial arts is violent, car racing is violent. We were looking for more obscure violent sports. Unique violent sports.
Yeah.
All right.
There's one that just, I mean, I'd never heard of it until this week.
All right. So tell me what it is.
It blew my mind. And you might have to say it for me.
We're talking about the one in Florence.
The one in Florence, Italy, and it's been around for 600 years.
Yeah.
They didn't bring it back till the 1930s. It was gone for like 2 centuries.
You know who brought it back? Mussolini brought it back.
Mussolini brought it back. Mussolini brought it back, and it's Calcio
Storico.
Calcio Storico. And I only caught a couple clips of this. I didn't get a whole. I don't even know if I could stomach watching a full match.
Well, okay, so one, I would love to see it live.
Yes.
But you can see it on Netflix. There is a documentary about this on Netflix. It is fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so it's played in June in Florence. It is played in one of the big piazzas downtown. I'm trying to think what the hell the name of the piazza is. The Piazza Santa Croce.
Yeah, I could never say that.
The Piazza Santa Croce, which is a really beautiful part of Florence. And there's 27 players on a team.
Yeah, it's in the shadow of the Basilica Santa Croce.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. Right next to the church.
Right next to the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the largest Franciscan church in the world.
Yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous. I've been in the church.
Yeah. I mean, this is a crazy sport.
So tell me what you know about the sport, because it's fucking nuts.
It is absolutely nuts. So they choose sides, and basically they try and get to the other. It's almost like the most violent game of capture the flag in the world. You get a point if you go there, and if you get knocked out, they just drag you off the field, and then your team has to play with one less player.
Yeah,
and it could end up with, they start with like 10 players aside.
They start with 27. 27 aside. And you can do.
It's just an all-out brawl.
You can do whatever
Blake's
you want.
got a picture of it up on the thing.
You can do whatever you want. You can. It's martial arts. It's fighting. It's wrestling. You can tackle people. You can kick the shit out of people.
Boxing.
Any of this stuff is legal, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, then you have to get the ball in your opponent's goal.
Yes.
And
it's the ultimate kill the man. I mean, did you play kill the man with the ball
yes.
in Ireland?
We had a different name for it back then, which we can't say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Same name.
Yeah. Kill the man with the ball.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with that.
You can do whatever you want, and you try to incapacitate as many as the opposition as possible.
Yeah. You want to knock them out, because if you knock them out, they're out of the game.
They're out.
Yeah.
And once you have a number of people incapacitated, then you try to score.
Yeah.
The field it's a sandy dirt field.
Like there's guys, there's like quicker guys, and then there's bigger guys, and the bigger guys are trying to hold down the other people. I mean, it's truly the most violent thing.
Yeah, and
I've seen.
So what I loved most about it, it's played today. There's 4 teams, and the city of Florence is divided into 4 quarters.
Yes.
And you can only play for your quarter team if you live in that quarter.
Yes.
And it's very, very simple. There's the blue team, the white team, the red team, and the green team. That's it. And if you live in the green quarter, you play for the green team. If you live in the blue quarter, you play for the blue team. And they play a semi-final.
What if they move?
I don't know. I don't know if you would move. I don't know if somebody who plays for the whites could ever play for the blues.
And we're going to get to the sport that's very similar to this because it's county by county in Ireland, which is a hurling thing. So what happens if somebody is here, he marries a woman in another county, can he play for that county? Because you have to live in that county to play for those two.
Yeah. Supposed to.
Well,
if you play Calcio Storico, they have semi-finals in the middle of June, and then the final is always played on June the 24th, which is actually my wife's birthday, and it's the feast of San Giovanni. For some reason, it has to be played on this saint's feast day, and they fucking murder each other.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like, they knock each other out. People have died in this. People have been hospitalized.
We're watching this on Netflix tonight.
Brain trauma, broken legs. They
don't stop the game.
No.
They don't stop the game. If you're knocked out, they literally drag you to the side. Yeah. If you break your leg,
that's it.
You got bones sticking out. You try and get to the side, or they come and drag you out.
So do you know what my favorite thing I read about it?
I didn't realize there's 27 people.
4 popes have played in this. Back in the 16th century, 4 popes played.
Wow.
2 of them while they were pope.
Wow, who's going to punch a pope? I bet they won.
Right. And
I bet they won.
You think?
If not, those people are going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah. So the Emperor Charles V, who just came across this in the 16th century.
Yes.
And he was the guy that basically caused the Reformation to take off in England, which is a totally different story. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole now because it'd take me forever. But he said that Calcio Storico was too cruel to be a game, too small to be a war.
Yeah.
It's fucking savagery.
Yeah, it's a war.
Yeah, you got to watch it. If you haven't seen it, please watch it.
It's the closest to warfare to any game I was able to come across.
Oh, it's fantastic.
All right, what's your game? Because I think we got people intrigued enough on that one to check it out.
Okay, so there's a game in Ireland called hurling. Hurling.
Yes.
It is the fastest field sport in the world.
Yes.
It is played, the field is 150 yards by 100, so it's a massive field. You play county against county, right? And the county against county competition is called the All-Ireland Hurling Competition. And you have to be from the county to play, born in the county to play. Now, I think...
So you have to be born in the county to play?
Yeah, but I think they've wavered on some of these rules over the years. Okay. I think you can move out and play, but it's bad fucking form.
Yes.
Right? But the game, there's references to the game going back about 3,500 years ago. Right? It was an essential part of warrior training for the old Irish clans. Now, the game is played 15 aside. You play with hurls, which are big sticks.
It's a stick that has like a club on the end.
Yeah.
It's a flat club, basically.
And you play, and the ball is like a baseball. It's about, you'd fit like, you'd catch it like that. Yeah. We call it the slither.
The slither.
Slither. Okay. And you can play it in the air or on the ground.
Yeah.
And so you'll have it where the goalkeeper...
What is the ball made of?
Well, so it's as hard as a baseball, but there's ridges. There's ridges on on it, so you can catch it. I couldn't tell if it was
like a hickory or if it was made of a wood or what it's.
No.
I've never actually held like it sounds like when it hits the stick like a. You ever seen highlight?
Yeah.
It sounds like a pelote when it hits the wall.
Yeah,
it makes that
but it's more like a baseball, but it's got a raised ridge on it. So the guys. So when the let's say a goalie gets it and he'll absolutely slap the ball 70 or 80 yards, and you'll see guys in the midfield jumping up, and one fella going up like to catch a ball that's coming about 120 miles an hour out of the sky. And he's going up like that. Another fella's just swinging the hurls at him. And you'll see him catch it out of the air. And as he's coming down, he's already dropped it and he's pulling on it like that.
Yeah.
You've never seen a sport like it.
Yeah.
It's all amateur. The final is played in Croke Park in Dublin, 83,000 all-seater stadium.
Yes.
And the guys...
Everybody's playing amateur.
Everyone plays...
But they got to be treated like gods.
So. They're gods.
Yeah.
You're total god. All the money then filters back into youth programs, developmental programs, building fields, clubhouses all around the country. So even the shittiest village in Ireland will have the most amazing facilities for hurling, and then another game called Gaelic football.
Gotcha.
It's so fast, it's so violent. The skill level is extraordinary. The fitness level is extraordinary. Genuinely, if you haven't seen it,
here's
look
my
it up on
question,
YouTube.
because I mean, a lot of the Irish friends that I have are major soccer people. If you're a major athlete, if you're if you're really good, you have Gaelic football, you have hurling, and you have
you got soccer and rugby. Yeah,
and rugby.
The big four.
Those are the big four there. Which one are getting the best athletes as kids?
Realistically,
Yeah.
I'd still say hurling and Gaelic football get the best athletes.
Hurling and Gaelic football.
Yeah.
Even though there's no professional upside.
No, because it's in the DNA.
Yeah.
Like the Normans banned hurling, right? Couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
The Statutes of Kilkenny, 1367, the English banned hurling, couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
Like, it's in the DNA.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of sport.
Yeah.
And so you just
Right.
can't. And it's
And
tribal and it's clannish and it's
Yeah.
all of those things.
Well, I mean, they just flail these things around. I'm amazed that there aren't more people's like heads just split wide open.
So they made mandatory helmets
Yeah.
a rule 20 years ago. I think it was 1996, 97
Yes.
that they made helmets. You had to wear helmets as a rule because people died. People were killed. And so they finally decided,
They
you know
literally
what?
are
Maybe
flat
helmets
clubs.
should be a good thing. Yeah.
They literally are flat clubs. I mean, I watch old hockey games where the goalie didn't have a mask.
Yeah, it's lunacy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, he couldn't whistle for shit, but I mean, he didn't have a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, hurling.
and
Incredible
now,
sport.
see, I was going to go with hockey as being one of the most violent sports, but it's not anymore.
No. But just probably for the best.
It's not anymore. It's still fun to watch the fights.
Oh, God, it is.
It's still fun to watch the fights, but I mean, they start pulling, and then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
All the
that's-
joy is gone.
yeah. So I mean, which sport do you think is the worst to watch a fight in?
Oh, I don't know. You know, football is terrible because it got helmets on.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of hitting somebody?
Yeah, and it's 15-yard penalty. Like,
Yeah.
see, like baseball, it's okay to fight. You just throw at the next dude.
I love the rule in baseball.
Yeah, it's okay. It seems to be all right.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody has to clear the bench.
Yeah.
In basketball, if you leave the bench, you're basically
You're gone
suspended.
forever, yeah.
You're suspended.
And do not go into the stands.
Oh, yeah, that's frowned upon.
We're going to have no malice in any palace anymore,
That's
right?
frowned upon in every sport. So,
All right, what do you got? What's your next
all
violent
right.
sport?
My next violent sport is, and I've never seen it live, and I do want to see it. And I know PETA's going to hate me for it,
Yeah.
but bullfighting.
Yeah, I would like to see a bullfight.
I've never seen a bullfight, and I would like to see it live before it's completely gone.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as they're, long as they're not torturing the bull too much, and I think they've cut back on that
Yeah.
quite a bit. But to me, I do want to see a bullfight at some point, and when things go bad,
Yeah.
the matador doesn't fare well when things go bad.
No, you got to have massive cojones
Yeah,
to get into an arena
yeah.
with a bull.
Oh, and I mean,
Fuck.
and the thing is that you can't kill him with one
No.
swipe. And this is why I'm a little conflicted with it, because when we slaughtered our animals, it was very humane.
Yeah.
It was very humane. This one looks like it's not exactly humane,
But sometimes the bull wins.
yes, sometimes the bull wins. So I mean, have you ever been to an area where you even had an opportunity to go?
So I had an opportunity in Pamplona in Spain, and
Okay.
it just didn't work out. And I've also there's a bull ring. There's a small town in Costa Rica that I've driven past, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. But there's a bull ring there. And I was in Costa Rica, and I was like, ooh, maybe we should try and go. But again, just timing wise, and there was wives involved, and wives don't seem to want to watch bullfights.
Yeah. Well, and I found out today. I went over. I usually Thursday is my trip to St. Augustine Historic Society.
Yeah.
So I went over there today, and I told them what I'm doing, and they're great over there at the Historic Society. They help me out a lot.
Yeah.
Like I tell them what my topics are, and they're like, bam, here. And they bring me out stacks of folders, and I'm going through them. But, and I was focusing on the trains more than anything else. But they actually said there was bullfights held here in the late 1700s before it converted over to English.
Oh, sure. It had to be because it was Spanish town.
Yeah. So they said there was bullfights in St. Augustine. Obviously, there was no pictures of it because it was in the late 1700s. But they said that there was actual bullfights, and the best they can figure, it was somewhere near the where the fort is today.
Oh, okay. I would love to investigate that further.
Yeah. All right, so we got time for one more violent sport.
One more violent sport. Okay, I had a couple of other great ones, but this one tickled me no end. It's called buzkashi. Buzkashi.
Okay.
It's the national sport of Afghanistan.
Okay.
So you can imagine it's probably not kumbaya, right?
Yeah.
It's also played extensively in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan.
Oh, anything that ends with Stan.
The circuit, right?
Yeah.
So it's about 1,500 years old. The best way I can describe this game is it's exactly like soccer, except the players ride horses, the ball is a decapitated goat carcass, and the goal is a round area at one end of the field called the Circle of Justice. And
do they actually still use the goat?
They do. Oh, today, they still use the goat. These guys, and how do you stop your opponent from getting the goat? You can crash into him on the horse. You can whip him. You can whip your opponent. And these guys are incredible horsemen. You have to be able to ride your horse and lean over in the saddle and scoop the goat carcass up.
And my other one that I had is such a similar game to this. And it's the national sport of Argentina.
Holy shitballs.
And it's called pato, which means duck.
The Argentines playing a more civilized version of the game.
They don't use a duck anymore, though. All right, and they used to use a live duck. Sounds like very, very similar rules. All right, they used to
use the duck alive at the end of the game.
Well, no, the duck died pretty early in the start. All right, but they have big circles, about the size of my arms doing this.
Yeah.
At either side, very similar to polo. Same thing. You can punch. You can do whatever you want to try and get that duck out of the guy's hand and not let him get it in the goal. Now they use a ball which has handles on it and stuff like that, but it's equally as violent. The only thing is they don't have the blood and guts of the duck anymore.
So buzkashi was banned by the Taliban. When the Taliban took over in the 90s, they banned it. And the Afghanis kept fucking playing.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what the Taliban did. The Afghanis kept playing this sport. And now that the Taliban are back in control, they've decided, fuck it, we can't stop them anyway.
Yeah, we're not stopping it.
If your national sport is this...
Yeah, don't take it away.
Really, it tells you so much about the personality of the country.
The entire country.
Right?
I'm concerned about Florence. I mean,
So you want to go?
Yeah.
I really want to go and see Calcio Storico.
All right, we got to talk more about our sponsors, then we're going to shift over to trains. But there's some crazy, crazy games out there if you guys want to go down that rabbit hole. Because I can tell you, I probably had another 3 or 4 out there.
I definitely had another few. Maybe we'll revisit.
All right, City Gates Distillery. I'm telling you right now, this salted caramel, is it caramel or caramel?
I think it's caramel.
Caramel?
I know some people say caramel, but...
All right. Tomato, but I can tell you yummy is the correct answer for it.
Yummy is the only answer for it.
Yummy is the way I'm pronouncing it.
Whiskey.
City Gates Distillery and St. Augustine Distillery, really appreciate your sponsorship. 900-degree pizza. I have a full belly, so I can drink this.
That was my dinner last Thursday night.
Yep.
They are fantastic. Great pizza, great pasta, great people.
Great job. Abare, Kresge and Associates. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Best accountants in town. Keep me out of trouble again. Blake needs a roommate. All right. Beacon Listening Room. Tell them about them.
Beacon Listening Room and Gypsy Cab, side by side on the island. The food is great. The service is great. The alcohol is incredible. I can stumble home from there, and the music right there, pure magic.
Yes. All right. Meehan's Irish Pub. Best bar downtown. There's 3 bars in one. You can do a pub crawl within a pub.
Yes, you can.
You got Johnny's upstairs, the Oyster Bar. You got the true Irish. Yeah, there's other Irish bars in town.
Yeah,
And
but there's nothing like
and,
Meehan's.
and they're nice people.
Yeah.
But nothing like Meehan's.
No.
Nothing.
I'll tell you this. My brothers were over this past year. St. Paddy's Day, were out the back. And my older brother went inside to go to the bathroom. And I didn't see him for 4 hours.
Yeah, because he ended up
He
in
went
the bar.
inside and started inside of the bar and started talking and everything.
Yeah.
He thought he was in a different place.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that may have had to do with the amount of alcohol he consumed.
And I'm sure your brother is equally as bashful as you is in a bar.
I'm the shy one in the family.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I know.
We might need to have him in the parlor.
Yeah, no, you don't.
No, we don't have enough alcohol.
There are rules.
We don't have enough alcohol.
We don't have enough alcohol.
All right. Whiskey of the week would be Jameson at that point.
Oh, fuck. That man would drink diesel if he thought it would get him drunk.
Yeah. All right. St. Augustine Pirate Museum got a big event coming up on the 28th, 29th, and 30th at Colonial Quarter. They're sponsoring that event. They sponsor a lot of community
Got
events.
A big spooktacular is what it is.
Yes.
Like, it'd be great for the kids. It'd be wonderful.
Yes.
Take people out there.
Captain Mayhem over there. My cousins who watched the show said, I got to go to the Pirate Museum. They went to the Pirate Museum. They had drinks at Meehan's. You know, Tennessee supporting the cause here at Bollox.
Hey,
So,
and shout out to Tennessee in general for what they did last weekend in college football.
Oh,
yeah.
There's some heartbreaks out there, man.
That was great. That was great.
The Roll Tide was crying.
Oh,
Yeah.
But seriously, guys, to all our sponsors, thank you very, very much indeed, and everybody out
Keeping
there.
us on the air.
Get yourself downtown, support the local businesses, support these places because they're the lifeblood of the town.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
No,
that's why we live
really,
here.
It really is. I mean, we have great people and great people supporting us. I mean, we're only 8 to 10 weeks into a show, and we have some of the most amazing sponsors in town.
yeah.
So we're
Incredible.
very, very fortunate. All right, let's talk about trains.
Let's talk about the railroad.
Trains. Where did it begin?
Trains.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know. The
Trains
first
began in Scotland, I think.
Yeah, but the first train in Florida.
Oh, I do know that.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think
I do
you
know
this.
that.
So the first train in Florida was a train pulled by a mule.
Pulled by mules in Tallahassee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
So they were trying to move. It was Tallahassee. They were trying to move cotton down to the St. Mark's River. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
1834.
Yes.
All right. So, tell me, how did the railroad change? How did it change Florida?
Well, the railroad changed Florida in a lot of different ways. It kind of opened up everything. Originally in Florida was only on the coast.
Only on the coast. You
Only
couldn't
on
go
the
anywhere.
coast.
Yeah.
And, some of the river stuff and some of those things started to spring up, and railroad opened up areas like cities like DeLand and Clearwater and Lakeland and Palatka.
Yeah.
Some little town in Central Florida called Orlando, but it was Sanford was bigger than Orlando. at that
Sanford
time.
was bigger. Yeah.
Sanford was bigger than Orlando, but that kind of opened up that area. And the company that kind of got things going, there was St. John's Railroad,
Yeah.
St. John's River Railroad, and Atlantic Coast Line.
Atlantic coastline, yeah.
Atlantic Coast Line was one of the other big ones. All right, and St. John's got bought by a guy by the name of Henry Flagler.
Henry Flagler bought it. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he came here. He came here because his first wife was sick.
Yeah, he came here 1879. The wife
Yeah.
was sick.
She
and
was,
he came here.
She was sick, and she died a couple years later. But in 1885, on December 10th, he went on the board. He went on the board of the railroad.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, he bought it.
He did, and it was it was a line from Jacksonville to St. Augustine.
And it was used mostly to bring materials. It was so rickety and it was so inconsistent, it couldn't really bring passengers.
Yeah.
So he kind of, Henry Flagler, one of the things Henry Flagler did is he formally declared the width of what it needed to be where railroads, because before then, a railroad
could be anything.
It could be 2 foot apart, or it could be 4 foot apart, or it could be what it is
Right,
today.
there was no
It's like 5
consistency from
there was
state to state, from town
there
to
was
town.
no
That's right.
consistency throughout the entire country. So you could literally go from Jacksonville to St. Augustine on one railroad and then get in St. Augustine and go to, Daytona on a different railroad altogether.
Yeah.
So it's very inconsistent, but Henry Flagler kind of organized that.
So the most reading on this stuff, there was so many incredible things. But he bought the railroad in 1885, and within a year, He had his Pullman cars going to New York from St. Augustine in 30 hours.
Yeah.
30 hours. On a boat, it was taking them 21 days. He had them going in 1886 in 30 hours. It changes everything.
Oh yeah. It made it where you didn't have to give up a month just to get to your destination.
Yeah.
And the term tourist comes from you went on tour. So when you went on vacation, only the wealthy went on vacation.
Only the wealthy.
Working people didn't go on vacation. So only the wealthy went on vacation. So they would go, if you stayed at the Ponce, which opened in 1888, you stayed there for 3 months.
Yeah.
So you were on tour.
Well, and the selling point was, so Flagler was talking to the elite in New York City, right? We're talking Gilded Age people. We're talking Vanderbilts and Carnegies and Rockefellers and these people. And
I got to correct you because I get corrected at trivia all the time. Carnegie.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Sorry. Because I called it Carnegie Hall one time, and the people from Pennsylvania, they turned on me.
Yeah, fuck them.
Stone cold.
Yeah, well, Pennsylvania, boo.
Yeah.
But so the selling point,
why we just booed.
The selling point was, he's basically saying to them, okay, in the winter, when it's god-awful up here, come to Florida.
Yeah.
And you can say my luxury resort, and the weather is beautiful, and we can do a season down here.
No, and
that was it.
What his target was, a lot of the wealthy were going to the Mediterranean, and it was taking them so long to get there.
Yeah.
Or they were going to the south of France.
Yeah.
On the shores of France. And when he opened this, he's like, mine's better.
And you could be here in a day and a half.
You get here in a day and a half. Your family is not miserable the entire time. Can you imagine being on a boat for 21 days
just to get to
without
your first
indoor
place?
Plumbing?
Yeah. Crazy.
And tell your wife, hey, we're taking a luxurious trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the idea for him was you could come back year after year. You come for the season. And let's be honest, it was a lawless place. You could do whatever the fuck you wanted.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we talked about all the crimes probably in week 2 or 3. There was brothels.
Yeah.
There was opium
den
in the
Chinese laundry.
I mean, St. Augustine, was highest quality.
It was proper quality, good stuff.
But I mean, Henry kind of changed that in a lot of ways.
And what he realized as well is like, it wasn't just the tourists. The trains could you could move your citrus fruit. You could move your goods quicker up north, right? And so it became suddenly, the tourist stuff was great, but the citrus and then the quality of the agricultural products could get north again in 36 hours instead of taking days and weeks and months on boats. And so Flagler, as he got to St. Augustine, and then of course, the Great Freeze of 1894, 1895 convinced him that he had to go further south.
Yeah, well, it wiped out, and orange groves were very popular. Like Lincolnville was an orange grove.
That's right.
There's a big house on
Orange Street. Is called Orange Street.
Yeah. And there was I live off of Lemon Street, so there was lemons. There was everything that was there, citrus wise. But Lincolnville was more of a citrus plantation.
Yeah, than housing.
And then after the Civil War, it became. Lincolnville actually was called, shortly after the Civil War, was called Little Africa.
Little Africa, yeah.
So, there's still in existence down there that there's one slave cottage.
There is, yes.
Still, and it's on a residential home.
Yeah.
And on Bridge Street, I think John Valdez is actually redoing it right now. That was a plantation house that existed on that street.
Yeah, for citrus fruit.
Yeah. I mean, but the trains opened up the whole industry of agriculture to Florida because it was so hard. There wasn't refrigeration. There wasn't all those things. So it couldn't get there in time.
Right.
If you tried to take it by boat, it would be rotten by the time it got to Georgia.
Well, so one of the most incredible things I read, there was a woman called Jeannie or Julie Tuttle who sent Flagler the orange blossom, famous story, to show him that if you came further south, the oranges didn't freeze in the Great Freeze of 94, 95. But when Flagler was bringing the railroad down to Miami, there was about 400 to 500 residents in Miami.
Yeah.
4 to 500. That was it.
Yeah. St. Augustine was probably, if not the most populated, it was one of the most populated cities in the state of Florida.
Because you couldn't get to Miami. You couldn't go any further. You couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah. Calford, I think, was pretty big too.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the St. John's River, so it was a big port, that kind of stuff.
Calford, I think, was pretty big. And if you don't know what Calford is, Blake, do you know what Calford is?
Cowford.
Yeah, Calford. You have a microphone in there?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
There you go. There is a microphone in there.
Cowford is Jacksonville, Blake.
Jacksonville. So it was called Calford before it was called Jacksonville because it was named after Andrew Jackson, our seventh president.
And there was a place you could take cattle across the river.
Yeah.
The river
was a shallow area.
Shallow area right there.
That's where you'd ford the river. So, but I mean, St. Augustine, was one of the more populated cities.
So one of the crazy things, I read this thing about the railroad. One of the first big ones in Florida went from Fernandina Beach across to Cedar Key. Mm-hmm. And that opened up shipping and transportation incredibly. So it was 800 miles to go around the Florida Straits.
Yes.
And ships got wrecked.
Yeah.
And time. But you could now come to Cedar Key and in half a day get to Fernandina Beach, which was a big port. Mm-hmm. And so it saved you incredible time. So all of this stuff, it all happens this is right around the time of the Civil War.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything starts to open up. The railroad changes everything in Florida because of accessibility.
Yeah.
Did you read about, there was a fellow from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia called Howard Diston.
No, I didn't read about it.
So Hamilton Diston.
Okay, Hamilton.
Hamilton Diston.
Okay.
1881, the Diston Purchase, which in Florida history is almost as important as the Louisiana Purchase.
Okay.
This guy bought 4 million acres of land from Kissimmee all the way down to the Everglades and across to the Gulf Coast. And he paid 25 cents an acre. He bought 4 million acres.
Wow.
Right? 25 cents an acre.
Okay. So he spent about $5 million. And almost as much as what we spent on Alaska. We spent $7.2 million on Alaska.
Alaska, right?
Yeah.
What this guy realized, he was a saw manufacturer up there. What he realized was the land that was advertised as swamps wasn't really swampy. Most of it was agricultural. Mm-hmm. He went in there, did some draining, did some canal work, and then he started selling the land off. And one of the first people who bought land from him was Henry Plant.
Okay.
And Henry Plant City.
Plant City, yeah.
He built the railroad from Sanford on the St. John's River to Tampa. Mm-hmm. And so he's on that coast. So Henry Flagler comes down the east coast.
Yep.
Henry Plant goes over to the west coast.
Yeah.
And that's why Tampa becomes. And Tampa then is a big port. And then you can move your goods from Tampa to Sanford on the St. John's River, up to Jacksonville. And everything again changed. Tampa becomes one of the most important ports in America almost overnight.
Yeah.
And then that's why...
Yeah, because they were shooting right up from Cuba up to Tampa.
So I never understood why there was cigars in Tampa.
Well, the industry pretty much started here and it got moved over there.
It got moved over there because...
Well, it was here and it got moved over there just because the port was so much more accessible.
It was so much more accessible, yeah.
Yeah, like the cigar building, which, is one of the buildings I manage at 88 Riberia. The Sola Carcava building was built in 1909. And if you go to Ybor City, you'll see that exact same building over there repeated 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And it was basically, first floor was where you brought all the tobacco in, and they kind of dried it there. Second floor was the cutting room.
Up.
The third floor is where a majority of the people worked. They were shoulder to shoulder sitting on benches, and these were the rollers. And all they did, and they worked 3 24-hour shifts. So they worked three shifts. They sat shoulder to shoulder. They weren't allowed to talk to each other.
And they just rolled cigars.
So what they would do for entertainment is they'd have a gentleman sitting in the middle of the room reading as loud as he could today's newspaper.
That was it.
And he would sit in like a lifeguard chair up high so everyone could hear him and no one else was allowed to talk.
Right, because if you're talking, you're not focusing on your work.
But I mean, they felt like it was educating their employees, and it kept them focused on doing what their job was. And then the 4th floor was where administration was.
That's fantastic.
So each floor had its own purpose within the cigar building.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. But the reason that came to be is because the railroads opened up Tampa.
The railroads opened up Tampa.
Yeah.
So the other guy, there was a fella who got the railroads in the panhandle of Florida. A guy called William Chipley.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And there's a town,
Yeah.
Chipley.
Yeah, there's a
in
town
Florida.
Chipley. I think there's a there's a junior college with a similar name.
Yeah, so Chipley, I've been there a couple of times. It's in between Tallahassee and Pensacola.
You hear that? You hear the train?
That's the train right
Yeah,
now.
the train. It just gave. They knew we were talking about them.
Yeah.
There he goes. Yeah.
So Chipley, small little town. I was actually there one night. I watched a high school girls basketball game in Chipley in the 90s.
Okay, that
Chipley
sounds
against
horrible.
Bonifay. No, here's the thing. Okay, it was horrible.
Okay.
But I knew a guy who was a referee, a basketball referee. And he took me to Chipley because on that night there was a girl who was going to break the Florida high school basketball scoring record. And she played for Chipley High School.
Oh, okay.
So we went for that. It was kind of interesting.
Excellent.
But Chipley, there was a guy, William Chipley, and he built the railroads that linked Pensacola all the way across to Jacksonville, right?
So basically
And
I-10.
Yeah, he basically did I-10. And then, so Pensacola was a huge port. So suddenly all the goods coming into Pensacola, you could bring them all the way. It connected the west part of Florida to the rest of Florida.
Yeah.
And again, it was that, and Chipley made tons of money. And then he sold land to the guys who developed Panama City. And do you know why it's called Panama City? This again is one of those lunatic stories I came across
I don't
this
know.
week.
Why is it called that?
So the guys that Chipley sold land to who built what is now Panama City, they called it Panama City because it was halfway, mileage-wise, from Chicago, where the guys were from, and actual Panama City down in Central America.
So that was the halfway point.
That was the halfway point, and so they decided to call it Panama City.
There you go.
Yeah, and that was another railroad linked Chipley's Railroad, which went across, basically paralleling I-10.
Yeah.
Or what is now I-10.
It's I-10.
Yeah.
And a lot of the highways that came to be in the 1950s mimicked railroads.
Right, they built them along the road because...
They purchased, the government was able to purchase a lot of land from guys like Shipley, guys like Flagler, guys like Hamilton, whatever his name was.
Yeah, Diston.
Yeah, Diston. I mean, they were able to purchase those lands because they already owned them.
Yeah.
So, all right, I got to talk about this one,
Go
okay? And Blake, I think you got a picture of it. We got to talk about Henry's Railroad across.
Oh, down to Key West?
Yep, the Oversea Railroad. All right, Blake, did you find that picture? I'm going to say no, he didn't. All right, so Henry Flagler had this vision of connecting to Key West.
Yeah.
All right. He was successful in completing that vision.
Yeah.
All right. It was 126 miles. All
So
right.
before he built the railroad, you literally could not get to Key West
Unless you're
any
by
other way
boat.
unless you're in a boat.
By boat. By
Right.
boat. So, and he finished it in 1912.
1912, yeah.
All right. When he got to Key West, it was the largest collection of anybody receiving a train at that point. It was between 10 and 20,000 people in little tiny Key West.
Jesus.
All right. And Henry Flagler, who's been a very successful man and stuff like that, he said, I'm happy. I've accomplished everything I want. And he could die. And he died the next year.
Died the next year, yeah. So it's the most extraordinary. So the old railroad bridge that he built, you can still see it in parts as you're
Yeah.
driving down into the Keys.
Well, they turned some of it into US 1 at one point,
It did,
too.
yeah.
So
if you've ever
because the
driven-
hurricane in
35.
1935 took out a lot of, and it never was operational again as a train.
But if you've ever driven down there, I know loads of people who live in Florida have never been to the Keys. It's something you have to do at least once in your life.
Yeah.
You have to drive
Oh, this is a good
down
weekend to go.
to the Keys. Why is this a good weekend to go?
It's Fantasy Fest.
It's Fantasy Fest
It's a
in
good
Key
weekend to
West.
All right, but
Holy shit balls. Fantasy Fest in Key West makes Mardi Gras in New Orleans seems like a kid's party.
oh, it is a kids' party. It is a kids' party. All right, we're way overdressed for that.
Yes, we are.
All right, so the most interesting story when they were building the railroad.
Yeah.
Did you hear the story of the storm of? I think it was in 1909.
I know nothing about it.
All right, so they're building the railroad and they're doing it. They're having to do it from barges and they're using dredges and stuff like this. All right,
Yeah.
I think this group was coming from Key West and they had them working from both sides. They were having to sleep on barges. They had many hotels on the barges. All right, 1909. They didn't know when hurricanes were coming.
Right, you just woke up one day and went, fuck.
You weren't looking out for Jim Cantori.
And Tim Deegan
Yeah.
was not alive yet.
No. Yeah, and you weren't watching the Stoidum in Troy tell you what the weather was going to be. All right. But the barge got hit by the hurricane. And it threw, and they don't know how many people actually died from it, but it threw some of these men up into the air and into the water. They found men in the water like 3 and 4 days later off the coast of Cuba.
Off the coast of Cuba.
Yeah, like 90 miles away.
Off the...
Alive.
Alive? Ah, come on. Really?
Alive. They got thrown into the water,
Holy
and I guess
shit.
the current took them that far, and they were alive. I mean, they were holding on to stuff, and they were holding on to different things, but, they were alive.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. So just to talking about these guys, so Henry Flagler, Henry Plant, William Chipley, they didn't just bring the railroads. As they moved the railroad down, they built towns, they built railroad stations,
Yes.
they built luxury hotels. And so that's why you had the Breakers in Palm Beach. That's why you had the Tampa Bay Hotel.
Poinciana.
Yeah. Because they understood that not only could you move crops quicker, but they understood if we bring people down here, we got to give them the greatest hotels in the world. And that's what the Ponce de Leon Hotel was. That's what the Tampa Bay Hotel was. That's what the Breakers Hotel was in Palm Beach. They were the epitome of luxury, right?
Yeah.
And you had the first, you had electricity in these hotels. Never happened before.
Oh, no, I mean, Henry Flagler had to hire someone to turn on the electricity at every floor because people were so afraid of electricity.
Terrified of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were so afraid of it. All right. Blake, if you would, pull up, if you can see my picture right here, pull up this one right here. All right. Here's something about St. Augustine I didn't know. We had a public transportation system in St. Augustine 100 years ago. It ran down King Street, and then it ran down what is San Marco. And it had a full trolley system that went right down King Street.
We had streetcar trolleys in St. Augustine.
We had streetcar trolleys in St. Augustine, and we had different stops, and we had public transportation.
See the cannonball stack?
Yeah, that's right there. That's just right there in front of the plaza. If you see this, you can see the cannonballs in the background. If you look back, you can see Flagler College.
Flagler College right there, yeah.
So we have public transportation, and now we have the Sunshine Bus. So here's the other one. And Blake, if you can pull this one up.
Christ.
All right. Pull this one up right here. All right. So this one, and a lot of people don't know this. All right. If you're looking at this picture here, you see in the background, you see the lighthouse.
Yeah.
All right. This actually would take you over to Volano. All right. The inlet that's there right now was all land.
That was land, yeah. That was all done by the Army Corps of Engineers, wasn't it?
So in Volano, they had, they called it bathhouses, but it was kind of a casino situation.
Right, yeah.
Where the Reef Restaurant is now and some of those things. And there was horse-drawn trolleys that would take you over there.
From Anastasia Island to Volano.
Yeah. And they would take you across.
So I've always wondered why we didn't have a bridge when you come down Volano A1A and just have a bridge going across to Anastasia Island.
Well, it's a state park.
Yeah, okay,
but,
fair enough.
It's a state park. But, that was cut in, and they didn't expect the other inlet to close in.
Well, of course, that's right. They didn't expect.
So that's why the lighthouse is placed where the lighthouse is.
Yeah.
Because lighthouses are usually right at the inlet.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
Yeah, and then time and weather and everything just
Salt
went.
Run
fuck
filled
you.
in at that south end.
Yeah.
And now we only have the one inlet that came in right before the World War II.
Yeah.
So, but the thing that blew me away was that trolley. And here, this one's at Matanzas.
I think Blake is trying to show us something right there.
I think he's saying it's the end of the show. But this is the one that's right at, and I'll hold it up for people to see. And Blake, I don't know if you have this one or not, but this one, I think you have one similar where the Bridge Alliance was being built. But this was the trolley that took us across.
From downtown over to...
This is how you would have had to get home.
Holy shit balls. Look at that.
This is how you would have had to get home. So trains changed everything in St. Augustine. Hey, we're at the end of our show, man. How
Hell
quick
of a
was
show.
that? Whew. How quick was that?
Hey, that was great stuff.
And thank you,
Fascinating
everybody.
stuff.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us out there. We really appreciate it. Support our sponsors.
Yeah, please,
I mean,
please
they're
support our
amazing
sponsors.
people for sticking with us. Local business, support local business. We appreciate you guys. This is Bollox Talks and Tangents, and we'll be right back next week.
See you next week.